Hello, welcome to TechWeb Dots. Today, I'm going to discuss how we can connect Azure function with the Azure web app created based on the Node.js stack. Okay, and this session is again part of the Azure Functions with Python for Beginners series, and we were discussing in the last lecture the basic requirement so we can complete this setup. So our Azure web app with Node.js is ready, and our repo is also ready that we have seen previously. So I strongly recommend you to watch the previous session to understand this session better. Okay, so let's move ahead. So what we are going to do, especially in this session, so we will connect Azure Web App with Python function, but there are multiple approaches, right? But the planned approach that I'm going to discuss with you will use only Node.js core modules only, no extra dependency, right? When I'm saying extra dependency, I'm talking about Axios. Okay, so if you want me to cover the Axios implementation for connectivity, just drop a comment in the comment box. I will try to do that in the next section. Okay, so let me go to the Visual Studio and do the required changes, right, that I've already planned, and I will show you how those works. Okay, so if you see, I made couple of changes, but you must be worrying what are those, right? So first, I have created one simple function here, which is fetch Azure function. This URL is our Python function app, and I hope you remember we discussed in the previous sessions. Okay, so initially we are saying there's no data. In the response, what we are expecting data to be added, and it is added by chunks one by one. Okay, and at the response, we are finally consolidating and returning this callback response, right? And from where we are calling this, from this create server method. Okay, we are passing this Azure response as a parameter, right? So we can get the response. We are setting the status code, setting the header. Okay, so everything is given here, correct? That we are calling from here. So this Azure function giving us the response from this API URL. You can say this is our Azure Python function URL, which is giving us the API response. Okay, and in this create server method, we are calling this Azure function. Okay, and we are passing the parameter to get the response. So what response we will get here? The Azure response. Okay, so if there is any error, we will see this message error calling Azure function. And if there is no error, we will see Azure function response and the response that we are getting. You can also verify it very easily, right? Let me just cancel the current process. Let me read these changes again. But let me show you one more time so you can easily distinguish, right, what changes I have made. So one, we are adding the module, the HTTPS, number one thing. Second, we have added the new function, fetch Azure function, providing URL, fetching data, and same function we are calling from our create server method. Simple one, right? And we are writing response, Azure function response, and whatever we are getting. Okay, now go back. Now you must be thinking what response this URL will give us. Okay, so we can quickly test if I follow the link. Okay, click on open. Okay, you can see this is the message. Let me make it more readable. This is the message, right? You remember this is our old application that we have discussed? Hello, welcome to Python Fast API world with OIDC based special CICD pipeline that we have developed over there. Okay, so let's go back here and try to run locally first. So what we need to do, node app.js and hit enter. So I see my server is running. Let me see if I am getting the response locally or not. Okay, it's running. Here we go. You see, this is the prefix that we are appending from our function, and this is the message that we are getting from where? From our Python Fast API. Okay, so it's good, it is working locally. This is first level verification, but now we have to deploy this change where? To our Azure function. Okay, so we go here, and because our CI/CD pipeline is already up and running, so it's very easy to do. Okay, so adding Python Fast API call. Okay, so this is what we are doing actually in this change. Let me make the changes here, commit and push, click yes, and as soon as our changes push successfully, so we'll see the GitHub workflow will start running and try to deploy this change. Okay, so let's go back to the GitHub repo and we'll see if our pipeline is running or not. If you see, our GitHub actions already started and we can see our pipeline is in running mode. Okay, we can see build is successful and deploy is going on. Okay, we can see one annotation here, but we will wait for the final result. Okay, after a few seconds, I can see my deployment is successful. Okay, so it means we can go and we can test the changes. Let's go to our Azure portal. Okay, so this is our Python function. We know what is the response of it. If I click here, correct, we already know about this Python message, but now we wanted to verify it with the app service that we have created. Okay, we go to app service. Okay, we go to our React application. Okay, or nodejs application, correct, and if I click on browse, okay, so we are able to see the message, right? It is working perfectly fine without any issue, correct. So we can see this response is coming from the Python fast API response. So we have successfully completed this scenario. Let me know if you have any question, right? I will try to respond on that as soon as possible. If not me, my professional support team definitely will help you to solve your queries. Okay, there's one more concept that I wanted to discuss with you. That is CORS one, cross origin resource sharing. If you go back to our Azure portal, you are seeing what we are doing. We are actually accessing the Python app from where? From this web app, from our React app tech web, right? And which Python function we are trying to access? This one, because I have noticed multiple times we are seeing the CORS error in the browser console. So how you can solve those things, right? You can just simply type CORS here. You go here, right? Even this also displays the same thing. Cross-origin resource sharing allows JavaScript code running in a browser on external host, because we are not using much JavaScript here, so that's why it is working for us. But in more professional cases, you will see this, right, on external host to interact with your background. So specify the origin that you should be allowed to make cross-origin calls. For example, from the URL from which you are expecting that this function app will receive. But in case you're not sure, right, and you want to allow all, you can use the string symbol and remove all other origins from the list. Slashes are not allowed as part of the domain ID after TLD. Okay. So you can simply add the new entry with the special character star. It means every incoming request is completely allowed. But the moment you click on checkbox, it will give us the error, right? Because with this, access control allow credential is not allowed with the wildcard character. Okay, so we just disable it and we simply save it. That's it, right? So in this way, you can solve the issues of cross-region resource sharing in your setup. Let me know if you also want to implement the same thing on Axios, right? Axios is much cleaner as compared to what we have just done without any dependency with Node.js only. Okay. And as usual, your support, your comment, your one positive response really motivate us to create more such videos. So I will see you in the next video, okay, where we will be discussing how Azure functions can read the JSON document, okay, and those JSON document will be stored in Azure Cosmos DB. Again, a new service interaction that we will discuss. Okay, till then, bye bye, take care.